settle down again. Oh, that was pretty good today. All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Tea with Mike. Joining me today is Warren Whitlock. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here. Always happy to talk about these exciting things going on in life.
Awesome. And so today's tea fact is a tea plant can grow 52 feet in height. And that comes from seriousfacts.com. So again, Warren, welcome to the show. How's the day going?
Okay. I don't drink tea, but I do have my Zip Fizz with me. Wonderful energy drink that I figured out I now have consumed about 7,500 of these in the last 25 years. It's been a daily habit for a long time. Very good thing, and I won't say any more because I'm not pitching the company, but I do really like it. I like them and I like it. So cheers.
Also, I'm sure they're very happy that you're a loyal customer.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you want to start today by telling the Tea with Mike audience a little bit about you and all the fantastic things you've achieved in your life to date?
Well, it's been a lot of them, you know. I've been doing this a long time, so I've tried a little bit of everything at this point. I think that makes me good at a few of these things. What would you like?
A little bit about what was in your bio, so digital marketing, social media, all that sort of thing.
Sure.
Where you've been featured.
Well, let's go back to the start. I was born as a very young child and learned early on. Actually, it's part of the story that I remember being 6 or 7 and hearing somebody at a church meeting tell everybody that they needed to live their religion every day, not just at church. And I thought that's the silliest thing. Why would I need to be different on why would anybody even consider being different? I've since found out there's lots of reasons why we put on different faces and things like that. And wish I could say that I've never done that, but I've tried everything at this point. But mostly I found out it's just a lot easier to just be yourself. And the other thing I picked up there was the doing something for somebody because it was the right thing to do. In other words, golden rule: you get what you receive. You get what you give. That sort of thing. And now I know that all religions, all good philosophy, anybody trying to live live stoic life, and that kind of stuff is you do things, and the joy of doing the right thing supersedes the immediate gain, the transaction. And so that came in handy for social media and whatnot. But yeah, so I went off and became a salesman and learned, go get 'em, dog eat dog world. Let's go grab the whole 9 yards. Lots of sports and war mythology and business. And it just didn't jive with what I was taught about being the same every day. I didn't want to go screw somebody in business and then hug them on Sunday. So, and lo and behold, I found Zig Ziglar, one of the best sales trainers ever. Very big from the 70s on. Back in the day, you didn't see a whole lot of people putting on seminars and speaking about self-development and things like that. It was, pretty much all technical, do better at what you're doing or in business, or, and then there was, of course, religious and spiritual and things like that. But Zig seemed to have it together. And one line he says is, you can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want. And I go like, hey, that's the golden rule. And then I went through some sales training where we actually learned that there were more people wanting to buy than wanting to be sold. In fact, I don't know anybody who likes to be sold. We love to buy stuff, but we don't want to be sold. And so that turned things around and immediately tripled my sales. So that's where I come from. I got into the internet in '84. I was actually online in '81. Sent a few emails. Ridiculous. Back then, I paid $10 a month to have an email account from MCI. And I don't know that I ever received any email. I tried sending a couple and just, connecting with people because there weren't that many people to talk to. Somebody in a magazine article would say, I'm on MCI, and I go like, let's look it up. Okay, I'm going to send him an email. And nothing happens. So I just figured the guy was, too busy or too famous to answer me. Moved on. In '84, I tried the internet, and then basically didn't use that until, when the internet went commercial. But in all that time, I studied advertising, sales, marketing a bit. We didn't like to call it marketing as salesmen. Marketing was the people that make pretty brochures and
okay.
deal with that. So a lot of people still think branding means you make the logo look nice. Well, because it is your brand, but branding is actually a relationship with the customer. And good ad agencies down to just anybody in business now realizes that relationship is there. You're doing the transaction to start a relationship rather than building a relationship to get a sale. So, when you go into the car dealership and they start treating you like you're their best friend. Yeah, you're the best friend until you sign the contract. And then it's not that they're bad people, they're just on to the next one. And of course, that's how I was taught to sell. And today I'd never do anything like that. I had a wonderful day yesterday walking around a trade show, went from booth to booth, meeting people. It's a special event that these people use. They call it a meat market. So one day of the show set up with different tables instead of the big booths that you normally see. And people just go from one to another to meet people. Well, I made it through most of the gauntlet of going to all these 70 booths or whatever it was, and met lots of people, took lots of business cards. And sure enough, I came home and I don't know whether or not I'll ever contact those people. And I'm trying really hard to do that right now because of a project, right? And they're like, oh man, there's all these great ideas. I've got to get contact. And meanwhile, I'm going to another show this weekend. And there, I just reached out to people I knew in that city. And they're all like going to come by and say hi. Some of them said, well, what's the agenda? There's no agenda. Just like people come to see me. And hopefully we'll take some notes and do a little bit better. I'm working on that. After 40 years of networking, I'm starting to figure out that the volume is not the answer. I'm very good at the volume part. I know a lot of people. I can ask me any question. I can tell you about somebody in that industry. But does that mean I have a good quality relationship with them? So I'm constantly looking for ways to improve that. So I combine internet and I ran a tech business for 17 years. Combine that together and just started doing digital marketing type consulting, mostly for authors wanting to be bestsellers. It's about 15 years ago. And then I wrote the book Twitter Revolution and a couple of other ones, and now I'm known as a best-selling author. I wrote the very first book about Twitter in 2008. And so that's why I have a large social media following, and I actually engage. So if you send me a tweet, and as you and I have communicated, I will answer you in public, and we'll have a conversation. And so anyone listening, please, at Warren Whitlock, talk to me. I love to hear. Be really nice if you say, hey, love the podcast. That's okay. I feel good when I get those. But if you want to ask me a question, go ahead. Don't ask if you can ask a question. Just ask. I may not answer because I'm human and I miss some, but I try to answer everything I get. If I say, hi, Warren, send me some money, I'll say well, let's get a little bit more specific. What do you need the money for? What are you doing? What's your project? And at the end of it, usually most people don't want money. The other thing in business, they're always asking for increased sales. I got to get more revenue. I got to get more customers. I need more traffic to my website. And I start with the same thing that I was saying I go through myself. Do you really need more traffic? How are you converting when the people come to your website? Is it selling anything? Well, no. Well, why don't we talk about that? How could you fix that? And the older I get, the more I find out that our goals are never clear. We can always use more, myself included. And the people who prioritize what they want out of life get it. And I'm in business. I talk about business, but it applies to everything. You know, if you want to learn Spanish, figure out a way to start speaking Spanish with people who speak Spanish. You know, so you do. Immersion beats everything. I know I learned Thai that way. I went to
Oh,
Thailand
very cool.
and speak fluent Thai. It's been 40 years, so no demonstrations on that anymore. But it's still up there in my head because every day, you know, everywhere I went, you know, rode buses and met people in markets and door to door and had lots of meetings and all that. And it was all in Thai. And I think back and I go like, that's an incredible thing to have in my brain. Wish it was Spanish because I live in the southwestern United States. Spanish would come in handy a lot more
Yes.
often.
Nice.
But I've never had a goal to learn Spanish, and so that's why. So this year I posted on Twitter that I was going to learn a new language.
How's that
And I
going?
said, is it going to be? And the poll was Mandarin or Python, and Python won by a landslide. I still would like to know some Mandarin. I don't know. With my hearing, it's a tonal language, so I might have to take care of the hearing aid or whatever before I get to it. But I'd like to know that. Writing it, no, I can't write. I can't write in English and have anybody read it. So I think I'll never learn those characters, or I guess I don't want to. It's hard to say. I try not to say I can't on anything. So I'm taking a Python course. It's a video course.
Oh, wow.
I don't need to be a programmer, but the first thing I learned was Python is very similar to all the things I've learned from macros and spreadsheets, and so it's quite interesting. But same can be true of anything that you do. Just read a book called Small Habits by oh crap, I'm blanking on his name. So you'll find it and put it in the show notes. It's a really smart guy who teaches at Stanford about the trends because of social media and everything. So Small Habits is his book to talk about habits. And all the research on habits say that if you want to do something, tie it into something you're already doing. So, every time you put on socks, you're going to do 3 sit-ups. Something that simple. And the idea is it needs to be small. It's not going to be, I'm going to learn Mandarin this year. I just read a book on speed learning and a guy who practices that. Lots of tricks and interesting. I love the tales of people that learn to do things, and basically he wanted to learn a language. He flew to the country and just, rented a room and stayed there for a while. And in a few months, he knew how to speak the language. There's some other exercises he did. It's not that you can't learn it fast, but I have no need for that. I could get along fine being the old white American who doesn't understand most of the world. But it's a personal challenge to keep the brain alive. I like learning new things. I have a thrill of learning new things. So probably, we'll get to Python well enough that I'll be able to get something done when I want it, or at least tell the programmer, I know what's possible. Did you try this? And I believe totally in serendipity, that if you go out and get as prepared as you can, the path you take, you can have your North Star and your big goals and where you want to go, but the path you take is not going to be a straight line.
No.
And sometimes it's the detour that brings the most fun in life.
Oh, interesting.
So this morning I was getting ready to talk to you, trying to get some things done on my laptop. My grandchildren arrived in the house. They decided they needed to entertain me. They thought they were helping Grandma. And so they actually brought me the bottle of water that I made my Zip Fizz from. And they brought 2 tubes so I could choose. And it was, utterly worthless from a practical standpoint, but it made my day that I was able to interact with them. And there's a little bit of work that didn't get done, but all in all, I think it's going to be a good day. I got here, I've got other things planned, and
excellent.
Hopefully I'm going to bump into something and make somebody's day better.
Awesome. So going back a little bit, what interested you when you were starting off about the whole ad sales, marketing world, and then the transition kind of into the digital world? And what did you think of digital, and then the emergence of social media?
Well, they say that, digital first is a millennial trait. And I could go on for some time about the problems with demographics being what year you were born, but so I lead, excuse me, I lead millennials in a lot of ways. And if you take the millennial test of what do young people want to do that's different than old people, and there's a lot of things generational where we have differences. But if I read the list of the traits in the basic how to understand in a market, like, if you don't use birth year, I'm totally a millennial. I think a digital first. And actually for the digital part of your question there, it's like always, the minute I saw that I could connect with somebody faster online, I wanted a computer. Radio Shack had computers. Went into a store, played with one, was totally immersed, was actually learning basic programming by typing in the command, and saw the possibilities of what could be done. And I did that in college in the 70s. And I am the same age as Bill Gates and Steve Jobs would be. And so there's something about the time you turn 20 and where the world's at. And that's what's in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers. And then the 10,000 hours. Well, I didn't spend 10,000 hours learning code like Bill Gates. I did, I was doing other things. And actually, the time I lived in Thailand was when I was like my whole year of being 20, I was in Thailand. So I just had other focuses. But when I went back and looked, I'm going like, yeah, I was interested in the same things, in the hobby, there's magazines, things like that. And when Bill Gates said we were going to put a computer on every desk, I go like, well, of course. And I was having trouble imagining how we'd get one into a home, because I knew somebody with a computer in his garage. It was in a rack.
They used to be really big, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it was a big old thing. This was before PCs, and he said that, well, because of the way phone lines work, we'll never be able to go over 1,200 baud. And 1,200 baud in megabits is, 0.001 or maybe 0.12, whatever. It's like tiny. And modems got up to about 57, and then we jumped to broadband and stuff. And like, mine's cable, but, all over the phone lines, you can do amazing things. But that guy had it all figured out. This is all we can do. And I'm going to be able to do computing work for people and bring it to this house and be able to type it in and store the database. And they go like, great, but they're going to get smaller. So I knew right away that was the future. It was beyond. Back then they liked to talk about a home computer would store recipes, so you'd know what to cook. Even today, if you want to do a recipe, you can get a YouTube video, not some recipe file in a database. And the idea of databases I learned in a book called Database Marketing. This one will be one I don't recommend because it's quite old, 33 years old this year. I read that and totally understood. A concept that we've been taught in college or in accounting type classes was that when you gathered what was valuable to sell a business, there was something called goodwill. And so when you added up all of the furniture and building and then all of the inventory, and then you came up with the price, if it was higher than just paying for the sticks and stones and inventory, that was called goodwill. That, the fact that you were doing good business was worth something. And that's always been true, but at that point, this was back in the 80s, I said, gosh, database means all the people you know. So if you run a liquor store, convenience store, anything like that, but especially liquor stores for some reason have a very tight circle. No one drives more than 5 miles to buy alcohol.
Oh.
If they can get it at a grocery, or a bar, whatever, but you go into a store to buy liquor and you're not going to drive that far. There's enough of them, you usually don't have to. And so that means everybody in that 5 mile radius is the database. You haven't collected it. No one is doing it that way. I have seen some new age ad things where you can draw a line on a map and it will find you, mailing list or social media contacts of people inside that line. Very sophisticated, high end, costs a lot of money
I'm sure.
to do this. But if you're running a dry cleaner or a liquor store or something that just caters to a local audience, obviously that would be good.
Yes.
And the nice thing about the internet is, while it's global, it's also very local.
Yes.
When I pull up a phone to find out about a restaurant, or where to eat, where to get some gas, it's very local. It goes with my GPS position, and then what's the closest. So the world there will have sensors and whatnot. So what's changed for me over the years is I finally figured out that I know about these trends. Acting on them helps out. I kind of did well with social media, but it wasn't ever a career. So I don't have millions of dollars I made because I have 1 million followers. It's been good for me, lots of business, and other people would say, hey, that's a pretty good chunk of money. But that was all spent on groceries here. Didn't make me rich. With PCs, I knew that was something, and I was selling advertising back then. And so I delighted in knowing that. And so I guess what I figured out was that my strength is in getting into stuff that's new, getting things started. So that's how I focus today. Blockchain is my current focus. Anything that's using blockchain, and way beyond crypto. Crypto is just the famous part, and crypto made blockchain possible, so that if you have 10 records 10 lines on a spreadsheet, and they're connected to the next 10 lines, connected to the next 10 lines as blocks, you chain those blocks together. It's that simple of a concept, but no one did it before. I've met many people that did 400 episodes of a podcast, and then because of a change in their job, or they decided not to do the podcast or whatever, forgot to pay a hosting bill, and 400 episodes are gone. In the future, that's not going to happen. Everything is getting switched to this because storage is so cheap and bandwidth is so cheap today that we now can everything that you might want to save for any reason, you do that. Gmail started it with Google was looking at throwing away some things about the time of Gmail, and there's in one of the books on Google I read said at that point they said maybe we ought to just keep it, and then Gmail came along and they gave let me see, I just read this yesterday someplace. It was, you got a gigabyte of storage. Now you couldn't get by with just a gigabyte if you want to keep the email. Got a gigabyte of storage, and the common was 20 megabytes. So much more storage, a factor of, what is that, 50 higher. And so you project that and you find out that everything is moving towards free. Used to be, memory chips. I worked on laser printers. Memory chips upgrade the memory so you could print a full page of graphics. Because the laser printers, the early laser jets, the way they came, you could only print a half page of graphics. So you had to run it through twice.
Altogether,
and the memory upgrade was, could be $1,000 to have the memory to print a full page. And also the speed at which they got the data was very slow. And what we saw in the 90s was that sped up to the fact that you want a page, push a button, and it comes out. and you need 50 pages, and it will do that. And the speed started to go up, and ultimately made being in the business of taking care of business laser printers something that wasn't needed anymore. Now you go to Walmart and pick up a laser printer, and you're good to go. But back then, when they were business machines and costing a lot of money, we saw those increases. And the idea that there were all those addressable pixels on every page, meaning that they were in the computer, that's what kept me learning about computers and all that.
Awesome.
I guess I got into that one pretty early. I was on other things that were before they started calling it social media. Leading up to LinkedIn came along in 2004, and I immediately jumped on that, but didn't do much. When I call it when they let the adults on Facebook, because Facebook started with college students. So, and I was in my 50s, so we jumped on Facebook immediately and found I'd already joined Twitter, but I found out that Twitter and Facebook had some kind of a partnership. Back then, Facebook would be a profile. There wasn't a news feed when you went.
Oh, okay.
And there'd be in the right-hand column, there'd be like 3 items of status updates from your friends. So all of the video and pictures and everything came later. And I figured if I had 500 connections on Facebook and each one of them updated their status every couple of days, probably on average, right? And a few of them more often, that if I would just update my status every day or maybe twice a day, I'd be seen by everybody else. And sure enough, that's how you grow in social media. You use it a lot more than the other people.
Yeah, so you appear in the algorithms more.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was marketing books and making them bestseller. So my first Twitter account was book marketing, and because I wanted my keywords. And then I'm in a conversation with Guy Kawasaki, and I'm thinking like, I shouldn't be this. So I created an account with my name. So every once in a while somebody searches and says, yeah, I've been using Twitter that long. Look at what you're doing. Well, that's the second account. I have 10 or 20,000 followers on the old account. And I gave that up. And actually, that was the account I made as Warren Whitlaw. And then in the book, we figured out a way and told people how to switch. You open up a new account, you let the name go, and then change your name on the second account, and then you change the name on the old one back to something else. And and of course today with hundreds of millions of users, somebody might grab your name while you let it go for a second.
Yes, very true.
So far, I've never heard of that actually happening. So it's been, I don't know. Geez, I just did a name change a couple of months ago, but that was just we bought the name and then just changed. They gave us the password, and so we just decided to use that account along with our old account because it was our trademark. So anyway, start talking to people, see how you can help, and if you want more out of life, you need to give more. Think and Grow Rich, one of the greatest books for success ever, has in the first chapter, only a few pages in, talks about a formula for success. If you follow that, you don't need anything else. You can get whatever you want. And of course, it's talking about money, but everything. Money is just a metaphor. Money is just a way of keeping score, I think. You want to get good at football, and then that would be the thing you do. This first, and I'm going to paraphrase because I've now been saying them so long that I'm not sure that mine match up. But basically, you need to have a goal that's very specific. We talked about goals before. You need to commit what you're going to give for that goal. And the way it's worded in the book, and a lot of people talking about law of attraction and stuff, are saying, well, you just got to want it. You've got to dream big and picture it and put it on your vision board. No, you need a plan where I'm going to earn $1 million, and I'm going to do that by doing something worth $10,000 100 times. And here's how I'm going to get the people and what I'm going to do. Or is it going to be I'm going to do something worth $10 10,000 times?
Yes.
I think I missed a zero, but whatever.
Understand the principle, yes.
Yes, you have to do it 100,000 times if it's 10. So I talk to people that want to have a book to sell. They need to sell 100,000 books to make $1 million. Well, at $10, they probably get a little bit more for the book now. And most don't. Most business books, maybe it's a dozen or so in a year, will get 100,000 in sales. So the very popular business books don't do that well. And of course, that was what I was into. I was writing business books. So when we sold 10 times as many Twitter books as I anticipated, I said, this social media thing is going to be a hit. Yeah, it actually, and at that level of success, you start ordering more books to ship, and then they sell the books, and then sooner or later, some of them come back, and economically, you spend a lot more money promoting. And I didn't do one of my promotions of buy this book today and you're going to get a prize. I didn't do that for mine because I figured a book on social media in 2008 wasn't going to sell very well. But in 2009, it just like magically picked up and sold, way more than we just wanted to get the book out. Most business books don't sell more than about 100 copies. The average of all nonfiction books is 100 copies.
Is that it? Wow.
Fiction's probably not much different. I just don't know the number on it. But yeah. So, and what you do is you use the book as a big business card. And of course, I'm going way back to the days of paper. Today, I'm going back to that event today that I was telling you about, been attending, and I'm not going to carry copies of my book to hand out. No, I go with pockets open in the jacket, and that's how much stuff I bring home. So they hand me a brochure and say, why don't you keep that and make sure I have your website? I'm going to go read about you later.
Yes. Otherwise, you have this about.
Yeah. What will I do with that piece of paper? Then you got to put it in a bag. Then you got to sort through the bag. And then, of course, you do pick up some more of the tchotchkes, the items they give away. So, yesterday I wound up with yet another thing that would keep my coffee warm. Don't drink coffee or tea, as we've already established, so doesn't do me any good. And I only have 2 family members living with me, and they each have 4 or 5 from other events I've been to. So how many of these do I need? But t-shirts, I have a large collection of t-shirts. So, but I go and I meet people and I look for the serendipity. So did I finish the 4 things? Decide you're going to do it. Decide when you're going to do it, when your definite date of completion is. And then make a commitment you're going to do this. And he says, do all these things, write it out, read it every day aloud, all good stuff that I threw out a long time ago. The rest of everything in self-help, including this podcast, anything that's helping you get better. And you think about sales training in business to how to fix your car. Everything is self-help in those kind of subjects. So, and you can get somebody to do it for you. You can learn to do it yourself and decide that's something you want to use your talents on. Or you can, just take a different path. The car is broken, I'll get a new car. So there's very few things you can do, but you have to decide, I'm going to do it, I'm going to take care of it. And I know personally there's been so many times when, again, this is the stack of business cards from a couple of weeks ago. They're still sitting on my desk.
Yeah, you're still working through.
I made some connections, but I need to go through and make sure I didn't miss any, because I love connecting on LinkedIn. When I meet somebody, there's a barcode and a scanner built into the mobile apps now, very fast to make a business connection. But I have 28,000 LinkedIn connections. I don't get back to everybody. So I'm learning.
Yes, right.
So we all have that kind of problem of, hey, I'm going to get up every morning and exercise, and then, well, maybe not today. I don't feel like it, I'll sleep in today and exercise more tomorrow. Or I'm going to, stick to the diet, but no, that piece of candy just looks too good. Yes, if I see cupcakes with this big stacked frosting on top, the way they make them today, I go like, wow, I did have one. They were labeled muffins and were out at breakfast. So I took one, which tasted like chocolate cake, and I pulled off the frosting and was quite proud of myself. And then I wiped off my hands, got clean, ate the cupcake, walked out of the area where they were serving the cupcakes, and ran into a friend. Shook his hand and got frosting on his shirt and arm. So, but I apologized like 16 times and can I go find you a napkin or something? Just don't worry about it. I'll go clean up in a minute. But and it was a valuable connection I made, and the frosting didn't get in the way. If I was trying to set up how to sell something to somebody, there would be no frosting involved. It's never a positive thing. But whatever happens, I've sold somebody who I called with a wrong number. And
that's impressive.
Is Joe there? No, we don't have any Joe. Well, is this the such and such business? No. What are you talking about? But it happened to be a business. And the guy said, oh, that's interesting. What kind of business is that? And he told me a bit about his business. And I said, great. You could probably use this. Let me send you a brochure. And it was one time with the wrong number.
Very strategic, though.
Yeah, the hardest part about doing all this stuff is the same fear we all have. We all feel shy. We don't want to dial the phone or send the email. Today, nobody makes a phone call, they text. Is it okay if I talk to you? I don't know. That's kind of the modern world. Like, I don't shake a woman's hand unless she gives me permission. I'm an old white guy. I look like a misogynist. I'm not. I've never done anything like that. I told several young ladies yesterday that I guess it got stuck in my head. A sign of aging. Things get stuck in your head. You repeat them. Either that or I was just over with. That I met a young woman and said, is it okay if I shake your hand? Shake their hand and said, I'm not going to hug you or anything like that.
Yes.
Just going to shake your hand. And thank you so much for this lovely experience. And, the truth is, if I had a choice, right now, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be talking to a beautiful girl. Nothing to do with sex or misogyny or anything like that. So how come women only make 70 or 80% of what men do? Well, there's a whole lot of factor. That's for another show. We'll leave that one alone. But because I know anytime I was hiring, I'd hire the woman first. Because they're just better to look at. They make a prettier office. So I didn't ever tell them dress up nice or, something like that. But it made it very clear that, yes, I appreciate that you're good looking. It's very nice. So I don't know, because I have to examine everything I did in life at this point. Again, I don't want somebody to me too mean. That guy was creepy because he kept bringing up flirting, and he was flirting by bringing up flirting. No, I'm 41 years married, not a thought of chasing a woman at all. It's like my rule for lying. You don't lie because then you got to keep track of two things. Life is busy enough. Keep the facts straight in your head as best you can. Write down what you can, and don't go out trying to think you can fool anybody. Because if they're over the age of 5, you probably aren't going to fool them. And wait a minute, there's a 5-year-old running around in my house right now. Nope, can't fool her. So I guess 4 is my new cutoff for that. But be honest. Work at your goals in a way, and expect serendipity. Expect that somewhere along the line you set up that plan to make $1 million, and something came up which might lead to the best thing ever. Post-it notes is the most famous example. Somebody invented a glue that didn't stick and made post-it notes. Billions of dollars made because the guy screwed up on the glue. So that's a little bit oversimplifying the story, but
awesome.
You start studying, there's just like so many stories. One more book, I usually have it pulled up, Obliquity, and it's by John Kay, UK economist, with a lot of good books, a lot of good ideas, and look him up, watch his videos or whatever, these TED videos, Obliquity is that we can't go in a straight line. anything we try to do. If you're flying across the country, you're going to get off course. Now, I hear that's always used in success talk as recommendation is to always get back on course, but it's told a little bit differently now. If you're driving and you miss a turn, you might wind up exploring something wonderful. You never know. If you're flying a plane and there's a lot of passengers in it, please go to the airport that the people paid to get to. But, but no matter what, there's always going to be some course correction and some figuring out. I just read about the first moon landing and a guy that made it possible by setting up the idea that we had to orbit the moon before we landed because it was going to make the fuel and the size of the vehicle and everything rocket. They were actually looking at a 90-foot rocket landing on the moon. So, and there were course corrections that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin did that made it so they had a little bit of a bump when they landed instead of crashing. And they couldn't have done that if their window was 90 feet above the ground. And so, that was just one little thing. So think about it. Something doesn't go right today, deal with it. That guy comes on your podcast and tells stories of who knows what. Maybe we cut out part and we make something of it, but it probably wasn't the one you expected. I'd be glad to be here.
Also, thanks so much for spending a little bit of time with me today and sharing your stories.
Fun. Look me up online, Warren Whitlock. Google
there you go.
Me. Yep. And you will kindly put a link back to my website.
Absolutely.
That's the advertising I expect, and we'll be good. Great.
Awesome.
Nice
All right,
talking.
guys. You'll be able to watch this episode on teawithmike.com. I'll put Warren's social links and whatever else he'd like to put in the show notes below. And thanks again for watching.